We're back. As promised, I said there was going to be a Whitty in Review week. It's been about a fortnight, I think. I was trying to do them like every week, but then I noticed that there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. And so if it's a kind of a interesting week, I'll have a Whitty in Review. But the last 2 weeks have been kind of cray-cray, going to meetings, uh, talking to some litigation, you could say. Getting that whole thing sorted out now, and now we get to watch the fireworks. If any of those know what is going on, it's going to be interesting. Especially this year is going to be wild. But anyway, so just a few things that I wanted to talk about. A few things that I did some research on, and the other day I talked about how I was going to talk about DieselGate because I was right in the mix of all of that when it was happening. I am heavily involved in the automotive industry if you guys haven't figured it out yet. So I will tell you what that was. I think it is, they'll only spend a few minutes. We'll talk about the SB52, what happened this week, and then I'll just give you an update on my campaign accounts. So you're probably wondering, why do I have carbon credit for cattle explained on here? Well, the other day during the Environmental Sustainability Committee, number one priority was carbon credits. And I talked about in that video of how it's a scam. And kind of even they said that it's being used as a fundraising mechanism. It's just a way to get money for whatever thing they want to do, whether it's preservation, whether it's weed picking up, making sure that the timber industry doesn't go through. And so I really started doing a little deep dive on carbon credits because the way that they talked about it was these forestry credits. And I think we all know what it is. We got some corporation that comes in and they said, "Oh, you know what? I am putting out a bunch of emissions. How can I repay Mother Earth for this? Oh, I'll give the city money. Whatever city that I'm going through, I will give it to their carbon credit program, which we know it really doesn't do anything." So I started digging a little bit on the whole carbon credit thing and getting into the nitty gritty. And then I found this, the carbon credit for cattle explained. And I had to take a couple hours off of doing any research after that. I didn't even watch this video because everything else is a little bit complicated. But during my research, I found this guy. And he seems to be pretty moderate on everything. This was the very first video that I watched on how they're created and who the major players are. And he seems like an environmentalist, but he seems like a guy that I could actually talk to normally because he wants to do good and he's not like a, a radical guy, and he's giving information on who the corrupt people are and kind of what we could do. And then he had a video out that I was listening to earlier, and it was one of his first ones. Yeah, Forest Carbon Basics, and I actually recommend a lot of people. You should go watch this video. It's very informative. Actually, I can't even see it right now, can you? Hold on. Forest Carbon Basics, and I thought this was very interesting because I can't watch the video at work. I can only listen to it, so I'd have to go back and actually watch what he's posting on there. But he talked about how there's this giant carbon collector, I think in Sweden, and he was giving all the numbers on like how much carbon it's capturing and how it gets released back in, and he was comparing it on, say, like you had a forest. Like, how does this compare to a forest? And he said that it would be, I forgot how many hectares he said, but it would be 1,000 acres of forest land to compare of what this carbon machine is in, think in Sweden. And so looked up the math on that. So 1 square mile is 640 acres. That means mile square. You would need two of those, and you would do better than this carbon capture system in Sweden. So probably what did that cost? Like $1 billion, probably more. And all the oils that it took to run this thing, and it still requires electricity. That's probably coming from coal plants, because I doubt that a solar farm would be able to keep up with this thing. But it was mighty fascinating. Seems like a good guy. I got a good gut feeling about this guy. I recommend people go and check out his channel. Um, what is it? Alias. Let me bring this back up. Here we go. Alias R Ray. No, oh yeah, I'm gonna subscribe. Yeah. Seems like a good guy. I didn't go through all his videos, just ones that I thought was interesting. He was one of the very first ones that I found. So go ahead and check that out. DieselGate. I told you I was gonna give you the quick rundown of what happened because I was involved with repairing some of these cars, and I was told by people very close into the situation of what happened. Now, there's a bunch of videos on YouTube explaining everything, but I'll just give you the quick couple of minute rundown. So, Volkswagen, I don't know what, like 10 years ago now, they had come up with this new TDI system that was really clean, very clean, high powered, and great gas mileage, which has always been like the creme de la creme, and nobody could figure out how they did it. So Indianapolis does not have emissions testing. Where I'm from, Northwest Indiana and Chicago, we do. So every other year, I don't know how they do it now, but back when I was living over there, every other year you had to be emissions tested. And depending if your car was new enough, it would just be an OBD2. They would check for codes and check for monitors if they were set. For pre-OBD2, they would do a gas analyzer. So they would just put the little thing on the tailpipe, and then you do like an idle, a 2000, like a cruising speed. They would put you on the dyno. It was kind of cool to watch. And then they would be checking for like HC, CO, CO2, and I think NOx, and there might be one more. But California has the most stringent testing in the country. So if you can pass a California emissions, you're golden. And what Volkswagen figured out was how to game the system. They were able to figure out how each thing was set up, in what order, how long, speed, yada yada. And so they programmed their ECM, their TCM on exactly how to do it. And I'm not exactly sure how like it was initiated, like, oh, you put it in drive and you hit this button and then, it starts fibbing the test. And what had happened was that BMW was caught because they were using similar technology. They were kind of like stealing it, but not really, from Volkswagen, and they got caught fibbing the system too. And they flipped on Volkswagen and part of their plea deal. I mean, I kind of don't blame them because they got fined so much money and they had to redo a lot of their cars. I think the fix was like they had to reprogram the ECM. On some other ones, they had to add a depth system, which is P, it's urea, and it cost Volkswagen a lot of money. Originally, I thought it was the engineers that had flipped. Like there was a disgruntled engineer, and they went to the feds and were like, "You won't believe what they're doing." But allegedly, it was BMW, which is very funny. So anyway, that was the quick rundown of Dieselgate. Told you I'd say it, talk about it real quick, and there it is. SB52. Oh boy, how much fun was this to watch? It was doing so well until yesterday when Indigo, Todd Huston, and I think IGA in general made a deal with Indigo to kill the bill. So SB52 had to do with dedicated lanes because anybody that drives knows that dedicated lanes suck and they're dumb. They clog up traffic. I don't know how much faster people get through the bus when there's a dedicated lane, but it definitely increases road rage because I have seen it. And especially when you have one lane of people and you have someone driving really slow, which happens all the time on Rockville, on Washington, West Washington, East Washington. Probably isn't much better, but I don't spend a whole lot of time on that side of town. So Aaron Freeman was pushing this bill through to stop dedicated. It was a prohibition. It was a prohibiting a dedicated lane for 1 year. And what their argument from Indigo was is that, well, if we don't get this going, then the blue line will be killed because we can't get $150 million in road funding from the federal government. And Freeman's take on that was like, well, you could get funding other ways. Like you've already spent the time, and Blake Johnson was saying it's like, we've already gone so far into this project, and now it's going to get killed. And Freeman was like, you basically have the engineering figured out. There hasn't been a single shovel. You haven't dug anything. You haven't really started anything. It's more like the plan, and you're only about three-quarters of the way of the engineering plans on it. That's it. And but obviously all that stuff cost a bunch of money, taxpayers. And I was watching this thing closely because it would run all the way from Hanover and Hendricks County. I think I talked about this not that long ago, but it was ready to go through. And then yesterday, they make a giant deal to kill the bill. So, which means that, but it was interesting because they said it will still be shared lanes and there will be pinch points of where the the dedicated bus lane will be. And I was wondering, I was like, well, where are these pinch points going to be at? And no one could figure it out until I found out tonight where they're going to be. Only really in Irvington. So there must be something in the road funding to get that money, that road funding from the federal government, that there has to be a certain amount of shared lanes, or can it just be you have a shared lane for 1 mile? Which I guess so. But I don't spend any time in Irvington, so it doesn't really matter to me. And then the rest of it is pretty much good to go. Because Irvington has, like, once you get into Irvington on Washington, the width of the street is not that big at all. And it is a son of a bitch if you're trying to drive next to somebody. And there's, it's kind of hard to see over there. The lighting isn't that great at night. So whatever, I guess. It was very funny when they were all thinking it's like, oh, it's a win. We totally, thank you to all the socialists that fought together to make sure that 52 was dead. It's like, dude, you're still not getting shared lanes. You're just getting road funding, which cool, I guess. I mean, it's still our money for public transportation, which, whatever. We know it's a failed system. You got Inez Evans making 375 grand a year. I think Jennifer Prince was making like 250. So you have all these people in the executive board making a shit ton of money off of our backs, and they're pretending that they give a shit about public transportation. No, they just care about their own pocketbooks. And one of the things that Indy Star talked about was the red line on how it reduces car crashes, but still has a high speed. And I was like, well, where's the study at? And they finally put it up. And so I checked out who it was from, and it was from America Structure Point. And then I thought this was weird. America Structure Point congratulates the city of Indy on receiving $25 million in a raised grant from the Department of Transportation. American Structure Point, a long-term partner with the city, helped with the grant application. So kind of interesting that the people that helped with the grant application were also the same people that made up this study, and they would be a huge benefit of getting this federal money. This was June of last year, so not that long ago. To me, this is a conflict of interest. You need to have some kind of third party that has no way of receiving any kind of benefit from this kind of money. They're just there to do the study. So whatever, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Here we are. But it's still going to take what? A couple of years. They said it's going to be 2 years of construction still. So a lot of businesses are going to be killed from this whole thing. And Indy Chamber was already talking about giving loans, and I'm sure there'll be high interest. There'll be some usury going on there. It's just a giant scam job, and nobody really, but the regular people do not benefit from Indigo at all. And one of their things that they wanted to do was, oh, well, we can have a bus line from the airport down. to downtown and kind of wherever you want to go. Well, guess what, people don't particularly like taking public transportation. Whenever I had an option not to take public transportation, I did it. I usually just take an Uber wherever I'm going somewhere, or I have a car to rent because I want to be able to go whenever I want to go. I don't want to have to rely on government transportation. Update what's going on with the campaign because it has been 2 weeks since I've given you an update on that. So I got fined by the election board. I got fined $200 because I did not set up my committee, I guess, even though they said if they even told me, it's like, well, you didn't set one up, so we set one up for you. But because there's a rule, you have like 10 days from after you file for candidacy that you have to have it, and it's $100 a day. And I was 2 days off, and I didn't even realize I had to do that because when I ran for city council, you kind of didn't have to do that. You had to a month before the primary, you have to put in your paperwork of what you spent on and how much money you got. But I didn't have to like make up my own thing. It was already part of the paperwork. So, whatever. That sucks. But what are you going to do? Very interesting thing that happened. So, Justin Moed, who is the current state representative for District 97, the one that I'm currently running for, he has an opponent whose name is Sarah Scheidel. It is a trans woman, so it's a dude transitioning to a woman. Well, by chance, I was listening to the election commission the other day, and I tell you what a clusterfuck. Some people tried getting Trump off the ballot. Some people tried taking Biden off the ballot. Same thing with, well, John Russell obviously didn't win. And Sarah Scheidel was getting challenged because, and it was from Mila Eldridge, who's a big time, I think that's the county assessor, maybe. But she had challenged Scheidel, and Gregory Hahn, who is a big time Democrat donor, also the chair of Indigo, and Allie Bartlett, who is a Republican spy. Whenever you see her, just make sure that and she will say that she's a Republican. She's not. I wouldn't say, I don't know if she's a rhino, but definitely pretending. So Scheidel was able to prove that he had been living where he said that he was. I'm going to say he. All right, it's a dude. Don't don't get mad. Um, was able to prove that they were living at that address before the year of the election. Because I thought like you had to live somewhere for a year before you could even file to run for election, but apparently it's just in that timeline. As long as like you can be living there during the election season. So he had moved there in like late October. The election, the general election is November 5th, I think. So as long as you're in that time frame, you're able to run for that position, which I thought you had to live there first and for a year, then you could file the paperwork, but apparently not. You live and learn, I guess, huh? Whatever, I don't care. But I thought it was interesting. Like that just shows that even the Democrats pick who they want on the ticket. Because if Gregory Hahn is going after you, that's a big deal. Because that guy is loaded with money. What kind of tells me something about Justin Moe is like they're the guy. He's the guy, and I'm still trying to figure out. But he might be uniparty. Hear me out on this whole thing. This guy did an Anthony Weiner back in like 2012 or 2014. Actually, no, it was later than that. I think it was 2016, something like that. But anyway, they still voted for him. Democrats still voted for him. And he got helped out with a PR firm, and it was basically like, hey, whatever he does behind the scenes, don't worry about it. That kind of deal. It's like, is he just a Republican's whipping boy at this point? It's very interesting. That's kind of my theory for right now. and I found his NRA grade, and he got an A from the NRA. So if anybody starts attacking me about my gun policy, hey, guess what? He has an A. All right. And I already screenshotted it, and I put it on my Twitter earlier and my Facebook. So it's there forever. Now I can find the backup on it, but I'm still trying to get a walk list. It has been very difficult. The GOP does not want to help me get this thing. And basically, what it will tell me is where all the Republicans are in my district, where I can send them mailers. I can go and talk to them when I do door knocking, whenever the weather starts getting better. It'll probably be April when I'm able to start door knocking. Um, the harder part is I'm still have a libertarian who's running, and they will take votes away from me. So, Renselberger, if you're out there, please don't run against me. I know your convention is tomorrow where everybody gets to vote on if you're going to run for that particular office and position. And I kind of hope that he doesn't, because he ran for city council last year and he didn't do anything. He did zero door knocking, he did zero mailers. If you look at his campaign report, he had spent zero money. He was just a paper candidate, which, I'm kind of on the fence with that, and he still got 1,000 votes. That just shows you how bad Kristen Jones was, or how many Republicans are in that district. But you know, I'm going to need every vote possible, because it is going to be a hard run against a guy who's been in that office for 12 years. It's going to be very, very difficult. Before I get out of here, uh, you know, it's one thing if people want to talk crap about me, which is fine. You want to call me a bigot, a racist, a fascist, whatever. I don't, you know what? I do not care. But as soon as you start making up false accusations about me, that's when I have a problem with it. If you're going to say, anybody out there who wants to say that I was documenting somebody's children, or getting their medical records, or taking pictures of them, that's 100% false. And that's defamation. Okay. And there's litigation that can be done for that. I'm just saying. Okay. I don't make up any lies. All right. Everything that I've said, I've been able to back up. And if you're just going to straight defame, like, awful things too, it's one thing if you want to embellish of what I said, I sure go for it. But if you're going to make straight lies, like awful lies, we're going to have a problem, pal. And, not to say they didn't have to do something about it, but I'm just going to put it out there like that. One other thing, too. If you guys have stayed for this, um, I want you to do me a favor. I'm going to make another post this weekend about it, but I have emailed Vop Osley 2 times this week trying to get a meeting with him and Jesse at the same time, because Jesse has said many defaming things about them, and I got all the receipts on it. And I want to know what Vop is going to do about it, because that's basically his boss. And not only that, but Vop funded Jesse's campaign, and we know Vop is going to run for mayor. I mean, we know if Hogsett doesn't drop out or resign midway through his third term, we know Vop is going to be running for mayor. So, I mean, he's going to have to explain himself on this whole thing, because it's BS. Not a single other person on that council has done the amount of damage that Jesse has done, or defamation. And really, I just want a straight answer from him of why he thinks this is okay, and why he funded Jesse Brown, uh, knowing that he was this kind of person. So I would ask you for a favor, and I'm going to post this again, like I said, on my Twitter for anybody that's watching. I need to be able to get an explanation from Bob on this whole thing. So what I did, so if you want to see my email, this is basically, I'm going to get myself out of the way. Um, and if you want to pause it, go for it. If you want to read it, And if you want to basically write the whole thing down, just email it to Bob Osley. And he's like, I think we all deserve to have an answer from our Indianapolis City Council president. I don't know about you, but I certainly think so. So that's about all I have for this week. Um, I will be at the city council meeting on Monday. Somebody else might be there too with me to enjoy the festivities, but I will might be live tweeting as long as I don't get kicked out. I have not been kicked out. I'm hoping that Larry Vaughn will be there. I really want to get an interview with that guy. I have so many questions, and he seems like a very cool guy to talk to. So, uh, until next time.